Hello and welcome to the Summon, the African Summon, where we connect you to Africa and African culture. Today we'll be talking about Country Sunday and the traditional meal of the people of Pinyin in the northwest region of Cameroon. And our guest today is Tasi Ntang Lucas. He is a retired instructor and has also served his people as a member of parliament in Cameroon. And we invite you to invite your friends, neighbors, and loved ones to join us for this great edition. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share. Welcome, Papa.
Thank you very much.
Papa, it's such an honor to have you. And after our discussion on the Country Sunday and the traditional meal in the among the people of Bali, I thought it would be great for us to hear from their neighbors, Pinyin. Please tell us about the people of Pinyin and just anything you'd like to tell us. What should we know about Pinyin?
Beautiful question. I am a Pinyin boy and today a Pinyin man. Pinyin was instituted as a community about 4 centuries ago. It is recorded, as you rightly said, that our neighbor is Balinyunga. The Balinyungas go to their present spot around 1830. They met us. And it is estimated that we had lived in our present site some centuries before the Balinyungas, at least 2. Now, Pinyin, P stands for people of Nyin, Nyin, Pinyin, the people of Nyin. Nyin is the father of the first founding father of Pinyin. And we say the people of Nyin is Pinyin, that's the name. Pinyin is actually a constitutive mosaic of some Bantus and some Tikaris. In terms of geography, Pinyin is situated at a strategic position between the northwest at that corner, the southwest with Bamumbu bordering us, the west region with Babaju as one of our very useful neighbors. Then we have Ashong and Momo. Then we have Balinyunga, Bawok, Bafochu, and Mbei. You would like to know that Pinyin is properly drained, which means that we are the watershed of our neighbors, I would say. No stream flows from a neighboring village into Pinyin, and we take this as a big pride and blessing from God. Because in those days of affrays and conflicts, people tried to punish their detractors and their opponents, by messing the stream. So we're very proud to say that no stream from a neighboring village will mess us.
Gotcha.
The tallest peak in Pinyin is called Mbuyara. It is the 4th peak in Cameroon. I'm very sure about my facts. Before Mbuyara is Lefo. Lefo in Awing, that's one of our neighbors, this is the fun, that's a mountain. Lefo is the imposing feature on your right when you drive from Mataja moving to Bamenda. It overlooks Mbuyara on the Pinyin end. Lefo comes after Oku Mountain, and Oku comes after Buya Mountain. We also call it Cameron Mountain. Some people call it Molafako. Geographically, we have a number of caves, deep caves indeed. We have waterfalls because of the escarpments we have in the area. And of course, waterfalls will no longer be beautiful features during the dry season. We have Opa Pinyin, stretching up to Babaju, the boundaries of Babaju, Mbei, and then Bamumbu. Then Lower Pinyin takes us to the borders of Bawok, Balinyunga, and Bafochu. The population of Pinyin is estimated at about 60,000. Population figures in boarding democracies are fairly not stable because you have them from various sources. But I'm very sure of what I'm telling you, that The health map of Pinyin by the year 1992 put us at 32,000, the health map from the central clinic of the village. There are other indicators like the high schools in the area. There's Government High School Pinyin, Government High School Menka, Government High School Buchi, Government High School Ndapang. Then there are 2 private high schools. There are about 26 congregations of the Presbyterian Church in Pinyin. We also have a Catholic church. We have the Apostolic Church with about six prayer cells. We have the Baptist, and we have the full gospel. And we have the, of course, we cannot talk religion without talking about our own shrines. We have a number of shrines, which are called the village shrines. Kwang is one of them, and Unikan is one of them. There are many others. I will stop by that point about Pinyin.
Wow, Daddy, that is nice to know. Being a lady originally from Pinyin, it's nice to be able to hear that history and know about the roots of the origins of where I come. So thank you very much, Daddy. I have to ask you, the notion of Country Sunday has become a really contemporary notion owing to the events, the current events in Southern Cameroon. So everyone's wondering, um, what does Country Sunday mean among the people of Pinyin? How is it observed? Is it a day? Are there days of the week in Pinyin? And is Country Sunday one of them? And what do those days signify? How do the days compare to our current 7-day week? For instance, please, Daddy, help us understand the concept of Country Sunday and in relation to the days of the week.
Critical question, because the Pinyin man is quite aware of time, his environment, and what he does. Let me start with the days of the week. There are 8, and I will briefly say something about each of the days, and then highlight a bit more about what you call Country Sunday. Mbina is a day. And in the language, it sounds like you are saying, I am beginning. Then Mbina is followed by Ngeyue. We have had 2 friends over the years. Awing is one of them, and Awing in Pinyin is Ala Ameyue, the country of Meyue. There's also another Ayue in Batebu, Ayue Njung. Then after Ngeyue, you have Nepiara. We're still carrying out some research to know what Nepiara stands for. After Nepiara, we have Ngekob. Some travelers claim that was the day they identified for moving down the coast, Akoba, down the coast. Then after Ngekob comes Ndue. After Ndue is Ntara. I'll make a comment about Ntara. It's a very important day in the history of Pinyin people. Ntara was a small meeting point, but on Ntara, so to say. The notables used to meet in the palace to savour the spoils of fines, and also to grace the palace with their presence and make the fun feel that he's fun indeed. Because you cannot be a fun to yourself, you are fun because of people. And then curious villagers came and stood on the outskirts of the palace to find out, what the notables and the fun were actually saying and doing. Eventually, Ntara Market was instituted as a place where the fund will send a town crier, you might call him, to make some announcements. On the same day, people would do a few exchanges, trade by barter, before the money economy. So it evolved into our first important market, Ntara. Since I'm talking about Ntara, it is also the day during the Ilere festival, that they slaughter the animals that will be used to celebrate. Ntara is also the day that those who are designated to do some court cases sit and judge the cases. That's Ntara. Then after Ntara comes Winyen. Winyen is the market day of our very important neighbor, Balinyonga. And on Winyen, a number of women and children go to Balinyonga to go and exchange articles. And this also meant that Balinyonga people had to also come to our own market. Then after Winyen is now the day, the D-Day that I'm going to talk to you about, Nkaba. Nkaba reminds the Pinyin people of the day the first enthroned and installed leader, Molo Pen, was ruling Pinyin people. Because when they came from various directions, they were like first inter-pares, the notables, the founding fathers, until they found a leader whose name we remember as Molo Pen. When he passed on, the people decided that on Kaba, no woman uses the hoe, no man uses a cutlass. And this has become our identity and our tradition. It reminds everybody. So on Kaba, we don't go to the farm. We don't go to do other odd jobs. Then you may want to know what happens on Kaba. You may call it a day of rest, but it's actually not a day of rest. It's a day of leisure and activities. In the first place, I would have been highlighting the fact that Country Sunday for us in Pinyin is called Njela, the day of the country, Njela, because you know very well that before the arrival of colonial masters and with the institution of modern states, the various tribes and villages and clans consider themselves as countries. So Pinyin people, like Agwin people, like Abale people, will consider themselves as small countries, of course, within the territory of Cameroon. The Pinyin will say Njela, Ngwengela. The Baleman will say Kunju, Mungu Kunju, and so on and so forth. So that is Nkaba. Another thing we want to highlight from Nkaba is that it is the day during which some other small celebrations take place. For instance, Njangi houses. And Njangi is a celebration because the people meet together to do some savings and they know themselves. And Njangis in Pinyin vary from just quarter Njangis, neighborhood Njangis, to age group Njangis, Nkanga. And talking about Nkanga in Pinyin, it is a very strong indicator of our identity. If you do not belong to a Nkang group, if you do not participate in a Nkang group, then you are not a Pinyin boy. In fact, in those days of warfare and skirmishes, they organize themselves according to Nkangs. When we have our yearly festival and dance of Ilere, Balinyonga we call it Lela, firing of guns to show our strength is done according to Nkangs. There are other ceremonies that take place on Nkaba, like a family bringing in a new wife. That's another matter we cannot talk about it today because it's quite elaborate. Then another very important activity of Nkaba is for a man who wants to show that he is a man, to make sure that he provides a little bit more meat and palm oil for all the family members to sit and enjoy the life of a family. So far, so good about the days. Let me not forget another day in Pinyin. I skipped over that. Ngoyue. Ngoyue for us is the day we have our Ndapang market. And it's a day that people go for provisions for the week, meat, oil, and salt. Ngoyue is also the market day of our very important neighbor, Babaju. And some young people go to Babaju carrying cabbages, tobacco, oil that they shall have bought from Guzang. Then when they sell in Babaju, they bring, things like kerosene and salt. So that is so
That,
far what I can tell
that,
you about.
that is thrilling. So in Pinyin, are there several country Sundays or is it just one Dingayu?
To be very clear on that point, we have one important country Sunday in
Okay,
Kaba.
okay,
Nguyu is just a memorial that I skipped on that.
okay.
The question is very helpful because I bring a point that I forgot. Nguyu is the day that the major founding fathers of the land decided to chase the first inhabitants of the land they met. It is good to highlight that we came to that land peacefully, human mobility for livelihood. But we made a people, a Tikari group, from my findings, from my research, who were very combative, very arbitrary, and very oppressive. Instead of taking the people who came from Widikum, Bamumbu, and Tibong as good friends, they were taking them as competitors. So the people we met are called Mefim. Some people refer to them as Mawung. They have their relatives in Bamawong, in Bambutos subdivision of the western region of Bambutos. And one of their leaders, I don't want to use the word, but sometimes you cannot escape using the word, was killed on that day because he was bothering the people so much. So they said, no, this gentleman cannot be torturing us this way. They warned him several times to no avail. So they eliminated him on Ngeye. And so on Ngeye, they remember it. Remember Ngeye because that was one of the days that they showed their might.
So Dingayu became the country Sunday. Is that correct?
Not on the Sunday, yeah, but
Oh,
just a day to remember
just
my
a day
family.
to
And but people usually go to the market to have their provisions, and it is not allowed. Changing trends being the case, it is allowed for you to do some small work before you go to the market. But the day we call Njela, the day of the country, is Nkap. Nkap.
just to confirm, which of them is country Sunday then? Which
Nkap is Njela. You are calling it country Sunday. I want to speak it in Pinyin.
Yes, okay. So Nkap is Njola, which is country Sunday, and that's when they go to the palace, and that's when they go to meet with the fun or and is there the exchange of goods on the country Sunday as well?
Exchange of goods, no. Sharing love and joy, yes. When on
Okay,
that day,
okay.
the
So
phone will
on
bring out all the palm wine that they got from fines or from other people and share it with the notables.
So on Country Sunday, then in Pinyin, it's really maybe not rest in terms of you just stay in and sleep, but more a leisure day when activities like the bringing of a wife, weddings, traditional weddings take place. You would find people at the palace to meet with their fun. You would find, uh, you mentioned meetings taking place in the different homes. I got you. Thank you very much, Papa. Um, so in terms of the traditional meal, what is Pinyin's traditional meal? How is it made and how is it used by the people?
Good question. Uh, I've been a politician before. I see there's this common saying that politics na bele. That's the sad part of it, which means that all the efforts we make in life should end up in having a good meal, the meal you like, the meal that will sustain your health. And let us use this program to highlight the fact that when you eat well, you spend less. Talking about Pinyin and their mainstay, Achua, that's how they pronounce Achua. And they refer to it as Mezig. That is the food. Any other thing, and they have many other things that they eat coming is just a compliment. So Achu You boil the colocosia or the ebo cocoa, boil it for some time, and you smash it. Let me use the word smash it. We'll call it in a Latin, to pound it. Some people say pound, but pounding, I don't quite, I'm not comfortable using the word pound. You come up with call it a paste after smashing the colocosia or ebo cocoa. After that, the woman will carefully select either a colocosia leaf or a banana or plantain leaf, clean it very well, and then wrap some, I'll call it loaves, some people call it bundle, but I'm not comfortable with the word bundle. You come up with a number of loaves of achu. That's the traditional way of handling that mashed colocosia or ebokoko. You wrap it properly, and they actually wrap and take delight in shaping it so well. A woman who is worth the salt in a big compound will make sure that she pounds enough to take care of all the children, regardless of her own, regardless of any other consideration. If it's a compound of about 5 wives, and Pinyin people are very polygamous, then the woman who is considered responsible should not just be pounding for her children. She should pound enough for everybody. It may happen that another maid is doing the same thing, so abundance does not disturb. That is the achu itself. Now, the soup. It may interest you to know that the soup is usually prepared by the man.
Oh.
Yes, capture that. Very critical. Where the women are pounding in the case of a polygamous family, or the woman is pounding in the case of a monogamous family, the man knows that the woman is doing her work, and so he should be doing his own work.
Mm.
And so he gets the ingredients, and usually they seek the assistance of the women. You see, men may think that they're doing everything, but they're always leaning on the woman. So he may ask the woman to give him the nekia or the kangwa that he may be needing. He may ask the woman to help him warm the palm oil, which he shall have bought and kept in his house. Then he makes the soup. The condiments and what you use for achu, meat for Pinyin people is very, very important. Luckily for them, what brought them to that land was a thick forest where where there was a lot of game. And so they were quite steadfast and organized about hunting into group hunting and individual hunting. So meat was always there in abundance. And of course, you know that with deforestation, some animal species are extinct, so there's no more meat. But now they rely today on pork, and every family is supposed to have a piggery. And they also spice these days with meat. Meat became part of the Pinyin menu around 1920 when Bororos came. Before, we never had cow meat. And today, because of changing trends, we have to pay school fees, we have to buy clothes, so meat has become so scarce. And because they must have something in their chew soup, so they have resorted to kanda. Kanda is not quite nutritive, but they think that if you swallow a chew without pushing it with some meat, you have done nothing. At any rate, there are other substitutes. If you are not rich enough to have oil for the yellow soup, then there's something like garden egg, which they grow in abundance. They can even dry some for preservation. You make a black soup out of it, or you just get some leaves of colocosia, and then you make what we call the black soup. It is worthwhile noting that all folks will prefer these days black soup than yellow soup. That is achu soup. How you eat it? One finger. You can support with this other one. To eat it in the first place, you put the achu in a leaf, traditionally in a leaf, before the arrival of plates. And you put your leaf on the floor. You pour the soup in it, and then when you are eating, you have from the edges, and then you turn like that. And A man or a woman is not to be decent, depending on how you eat achu. If you do it in a clumsy manner, they laugh at you. And what is critical is that when they eat achu in a family, children are supposed to eat all their achu before they eat the little piece of meat or the little bit of a garden egg or mushroom that was kept aside. You eat the achu first, and then you end up with that one. If you reverse it, they call you Njel, say you are not serious. So it's a whole tradition, and it's important. These days, you will see some people using the spoon. A Pinyin man looks at that with a lot of disdain. That is achu and how they eat it. Now, the next thing about achu is very critical. When there is a death celebration, that is the mainstay of the celebration in terms of feeding. What the women and other relatives do is that they bring the colocosia from their various neighborhoods and they sleep in the neighborhood where the death is taking place. Then they spend a greater part of the night pounding and into several loaves, with understanding that men are also cooking the soup. And then after the burial, in the courtyard of the compound of the deceased or the bereaved, find some of them squatting on the ground, they live on the ground, but we have evolved to the extent that there are now plates and chairs. But traditionally, people will sit down and eat achu. They leave plates on the ground. Some notables and mature people want to emerge from sitting on the ground and bending down to eat achu and then put the leaf in their left palm. Dexterously handle it. They open the achu.
Bore the hole.
Yeah, and then they begin to eat from their hand. They eat it. When you do that, they consider you as a dexterous, organized person. There is some pride in doing that you have refused to be bending down, but you rather want to hold your achu at a certain level, and then you know what happens when you are bending down before eating. It's like the fowl that is drinking water and then looking up into the skies to thank God for drinking the water, then he takes it up. And some people say that when the fowl does that, it's like drinking the water and thanking God for providing the water.
All right, Daddy. So Pinyin is very cold. And with a meal like achu, how is it, how do you ensure that it remains palatable within that climatic challenge of the very cold temperatures of the hills, please?
I like that question. It's a very interesting question. Yeah, what I can say is that pepper is an indispensable spice in every dish among the Pinyin people. In fact, I belong to a subset of Pinyin set, they call Meshi. And then they say that pepper is the meat of the Meshi people. It simply means that when population explosion because of plagues and because of the need for farmland came as an evolution in Pinyin, some people moved to higher. The leader of the Meshi went to a place fairly high on the hills. And so it was very cold there. So pepper was one of the spices that generated some heat and gave them some warmth. And so pepper is very important. And it now helps me to bring out the other part about the achu soup, which men prepare for ceremonies. When they prepare achu soup, they ensure that the women provide pepper properly ground, or the one in pots, call it that way, so that those who don't have enough pepper can ask for some. It is part of the preparation that pepper should accompany the soup, extra pepper for those who need it.
That is, so the history of the yellow soup and the black soup. If I understand, the black soup also comes from the ground leaves from the cocoyam leaves. Am I correct?
Yes.
And so what's the preference? Is it that they just have two as substitutes to eating achu, or is there a preference for the yellow soup over the black soup?
Man is quite interested in avoiding monotony. That's how I should put it. It's a question of providing another alternative. If I eat yellow soup all the time, and next time I need black soup, it'll be better. And also, oil being a delicacy in culture, because we don't have palm trees. All our oil in those days came from Widikum, all the way from Widikum.
All right, Daddy, back to the preference for yellow or black soup. Is there any preference at all when it comes to, or is it just an alternative for eating achu? Is it even standard, or how did black soup get into the mix for eating achu?
Critical question. Let me reiterate that the palm oil is a very indispensable item of the Pinyin menu. It came from Widikum. These days we can get it from Guzang, because Guzang people have also grown palms. And because it has over the years been a delicacy, there were times that palm oil was not available. And so they had to do what is doable to cope with the different things. So they now cease from standardizing achu soup, yellow soup, to also having another form of soup. And for some people, as a matter of choice, they would rather eat the black soup than the yellow soup. And in some cases, people may run their mouths to say that the person who is used to the black soup is the poor one who cannot afford the palm oil. That is another matter. And I told you also that when they are really in bad shape, and there comes a time in the life of a family where they cannot afford the basic things, they can just go behind the yard, harvest garden egg, roast it or boil it, put salt in it, and it takes a chew down the throat.
I hear you, Daddy. I hear you.
Mhm.
All right, Daddy. Are there other delicacies? I know in the Northwest region, things like the use of kola nuts, the use of palm wine, the use of gizzards are highly revered, and there's a lot of significance given to its use amongst the people of Pinyin. What items are any of these items used, and how are they used? And are there others you wouldn't mind sharing with us, both letting us know what they are and how they're used and the significance of them, please?
Let me start with the kola nut. Junior Chirbe says, he who brings kola nut brings life. In Pinyin, the average responsible person makes sure that when he goes to the market, Dapang market or Metaminian market, or other than market, Metankap, Metamenka, or Metabichi, he should have some kola nut. In fact, a man is a man when he moves with kola nut in his bag. And it is said that when you meet somebody you have not met before, you greet him. If you want to stretch the bond a little bit further, say, can you pay palm? If there's no kola nut in the back, then he will remove it. In some cases, you offer it without somebody asking you. But some people are reserved about giving it. They will wait for you to ask. It's another way of doing it. And some people may have it and refuse to give you, depending on some antecedents in the family. The people are so sensitive and sensible about their friends, because in every society you may have friends who are actually fiends. You move the arrow, it becomes an enemy. And some people may be smiling with you and giving you kola nut, but give you something different. That is the kola nut. And when somebody visits you, that's your visitor, you offer kola nut if you don't have food. In fact, before food even comes, you start with kola nut, and then you give water. I forgot about water in our feeding. It's very important. After offering the kola nut, you also bring out some water and give them to drink. And if there's no kola nut, you just say, drink this water. Take this water and refresh your throat. It shows a sign of responsibility. It shows a sign of love. But if you are suspicious of the type of visit, you can just stay quiet and rely completely on a conversation. Another item that Pinyin people share as a sign of love, responsibility, and friendship is tobacco.
Mm.
Over the years, I got this from progress and assessment reports of the colonial masters, the British. They went to the villages to find out about the activities. And it may interest you to know that the two villages that were noted for producing large quantities and baskets of tobacco were Awing and Pinyin. I'm very sure of my facts. I've done this research. And so somebody will offer you tobacco if he knows that you are a smoker. Tobacco. Also, there is honey in Pinyin culture. As I told you before, Muela means the center of the village was a thick forest, very thick indeed. And it is for that reason that the founding fathers got attracted. And so they met all kinds of bees and tree species. So the honey became an occupation for some people. And after harvesting honey and selling some and making an offer to some of your friends, a responsible person will usually keep some honey. And when he receives a visitor, they will offer a bit of honey for you in your hand. You lick it and lick it. It's a sign of love. Then there is this other item of real love and concern. And then again, we thank the women for this. There's what we call Pinyin biscuit. Corn. It is popularly called Pinyin biscuit. Steamed sweet potato, properly sliced and dried under the sun. Boy, and a mother who is really a mother will make sure that after drying the corn, she will send some to her father or to her aunt, and particularly to the child who is going to school, to a distant area, put corn in the bag. And so when fathers receive corn from their daughters or from their nieces, they preserve some. And so when there's a visitor who comes, since you should always offer something, they'll go into the barn, onto the bag, and bring the corn. And sometimes it gets too dry and the teeth cannot bite. And they have a way of handling that. They light the fire and warm it to show your texture. Yeah, they warm it on fire. That's it, Mama. That's how they handle it.
Wow.
And it can go for a beautiful snack, particularly when in those days we had to defend ourselves. During wartime, women are supposed to be warned in advance to prepare what the warriors will take along. Parched corn, I'm also talking to you now about parched corn, corn, and they put in their bags. Corn was also used, parched corn was also used when business traders, I'll call them in those days, moved to marketplaces like Babaju, Balenyonga, Ashong, they call Ashong Market in Chwepo, Guzang is a Guzang market. Let me highlight this about Pinyin people. Their potential for human mobility for livelihood is very, very high. There was a time when a group of young people from Pinyin will move to Babaju. They will attend the Babaju market. On Winyin, they will be back in the land. And the evening, they're moving to Guzang. And when they do not finish selling all the tobacco, all the kerosene or salt, they will move to Bomi market in Metaland. And from Bomi market to Tat, still in Metaland. And from Tat to Jifu in Bali land. And then from Bali, they will buy a number of delicacies, take home to celebrate Cap. That is Pinyin. And from this point, it's good for us to highlight this. Pinyin is Pinyin because of their human mobility for livelihood. When I was telling you a few things about Pinyin in terms of their position, I did not highlight the fact that they occupy a landmass area of 721 square kilometers. And today, the moral boundaries of Pinyin stretch to Dubai, to Japan, to China, to South Africa, Cape Town, and Johannesburg. Mama, in Johannesburg, they are running 5 football clubs.
Oh.
For football and handball. 5 handball for women. That is Johannesburg. You have the Pinyin Development Organization and Menka Welfare Association, the Budeka. These guys, you find them in America, you find them in London, you find them in Germany. That is Pinyin because of human mobility for livelihood. Their parents kick-started it and they are sustaining it.
Oh, Daddy, thank you so much. Now, I'll just let us go back to the items that are used symbolically amongst the people of Pinyin, and we were the Kakon. We're just gone past Kakon and how it was used during the war and in trade. How about palm wine? Do the people of Pinyin use palm wine?
Beautiful question. Beautiful question. There's something very interesting when I think about palm wine in Pinyin culture. First of all, they did not make the raffia palm, neither the dead palm. The dead palm was fairly far in Bamumbu on the outskirts. And so it became a real delicacy because they had to import it all the way from our neighbors, Balinyua, Bafochu, and Bawok. And because of that scarcity of palm wine, the first calabashes of palm wine were drunk only in the palace. And in the palace, there was a certain practice that the calabash of palm wine stood only in front of the fawn and his maternal grandfather. And then the other senior princes did not like the idea, to the extent that palm wine for us in Pinyin has been a blazing, then at the same time, it sets up confusion. Because eventually, because of palm wine, I'm proud to say this because Dr. Fondon says that history may be false, not only when lies are told, but also when essential facts are left out. That question about palm wine is very, very critical in Pinyin culture because practically, when there is a ceremony, that's the smaller calabash in which the palm wine is put or served, stands before the elder. If there are about 5 small calabashes in the room, then they will identify 5 elderly people and place in front of them. To be the ones to serve. Any young man interested in the drink will come reverently, bow down, supporting his right hand with the left hand, and then he is served in a cup or in a horn. It depends on who you are. So that's how significant and important palm wine is. Palm wine is one of the indispensable items of a death celebration. And during a death celebration, friends will carry either a calabash or a jug. In those days, it was the calabash and a small ndu. But today, because of evolution, the jugs and other containers have come. And so palm wine during a death celebration, when you see it served in abundance, it is not because one man bought it, but because people brought it. Because in the beginning it is said that palm wine and the way you serve it during that celebration and take along during celebration is a function of the way you want your own death celebrated. Because when you take a joke to a friend, you expect a joke when something happens to you. That is palm wine. Now, in the family, a notable on-cap, for example, will bring out the palm wine that he has. And while the women shall have cooked for them to sit together and eat, he's getting ready the palm wine. Then they drink as a family. And what is also very, very important to note is that ordinary people don't drink palm wine using the left hand. In fact, in the palace, it is the fawn who is allowed to drink with his left hand. Every other citizen with the right hand.
Wow.
And if a senior prince wants to show his family members, not in the palace, that he is a senior prince with the sword, he can drink his palm wine with the left. Also, palm wine in the cup of the fawn, a woman can drink from the cup fawn. A woman can drink from the cup of the senior prince, not any other child. This indirectly tells you the importance of the woman in Pinyin culture. A woman can sit on the innermost court stool of the fawn, not in public, on the stool where the fawn sits. She can warm it while the fawn is coming. But when there is a ceremony like a letter, the woman who has been carefully selected among the princesses to be the marfo, when the fawn is properly seated, and then his inquati also seated, marfo sits in the other corner majestically. Then the other notables can flank the whole podium.
Wow. All right, Daddy. Okay, so we have dealt with palm wine.
Yes.
How about gizzards?
Critical. The way I look at the gizzard, for Pinyin culture, it also goes with the wings of the chicken, and also the anus of the chicken. I mean, using the real biological term, but when you slaughter a chicken for a ceremony, be in the compound, you carefully keep the gizzard, and then you keep the anus of the fowl, and then the small wings. This is served to the old people, and the oldest person has a priority to take the part he wants, usually the gizzard. Then some of the wings given to them. That is that for those parts. And among themselves, when men are among themselves, the oldest person eats it. If it's a mixed group, even with only young boys in the house and with old women in the house, only the men eat it. That's the gizzard. I was also telling you about the wings and then the anus. It goes always for the men, with preference for the old men. Let me bring this other match, not a match, this other end practice in Pinyin culture. There is a particular dish in Pinyin which is eaten only by women, and men are not allowed to eat it. Mbang tengne. Tengne is a small clay pot in which women will put the small, call it pieces of colocosia or ebokuku. When they are getting ready, they will put all those together, put some condiments in it, and only women are allowed to eat it. You see, I tried to find out from some old women why they came up with that. So they said that at one time it would appear, listen to my language, it would appear that women also said, but these men are always pulling this other thing to their side. What can we do for ourselves? And so they said, let us design a meal that is good only for us. And we'll let the men know that they cannot touch it. The pot in which they prepare it is called tingne. When you put that mbang in it, the mbang is the small colocosia. When you turn it, it's only for women.
Roger that. Okay, Daddy. How about reverence for pigs in Pinyin? I'm just trying to look at all the other things that have come up in history and have been used by the people of Pinyin to distinguish themselves. They've used and they've practiced. I think of the piggery. Tell us a little bit more about the significance of the pig and how it came into having a place among the people of Pinyin.
You are a wise woman. You are very wise. The pig for Pinyin people is both an economic product and a very significant ceremonial animal. Every man in Pinyin is supposed to have a small pig fence, not to call it piggery. That's too elaborate. And in those days, the pig fence was properly arranged so that the pig should not go astray and destroy the crops. One, I'm not ashamed to say this, I'm a Pinyin man. In those days, the pig fence was arranged in such a way that two fork sticks were put together with another stick across. And so people who were hard pressed were empty their bowels like that. Mama, that it happened. It happened. And so today, what we know is that every compound has a pig fence. And every old man who is smelling the end of his life makes sure that he keeps a pig so that when he is no more, they will slaughter that animal before other animals get slaughtered. And considering the pig as an economic crop, Pinyin people will go to Babaju, taking along pigs to go and sell to Guzang and so on and so forth. That's what it stands for them. So it is both an occupation and a cultural occupation to keep one, which shows responsibility. Because if you don't have a pig fence, you are seen as a man who is not serious. If you're a young man and you want to do some trade, the pig is a trade article. Now, ceremonies, very, very critical. When there is a death celebration, I've already told you that the pig that the deceased, the man, kept for the death is slaughtered. Then every son of his is supposed to slaughter a pig for the death celebration. Today, they allow the cow because we have evolved. So you can either slaughter a pig or a cow. But the cow culture, as I told you earlier, came in around 1920. That is the pig about the celebration. The pig and succession. If you are going to succeed your father, the pig features in the ceremony. In that it has to be slaughtered to feed the people. That is the pig for us. I also already told you that during Ilere, that's the yearly dance, in Tara is the day that they slaughter the pigs. Those who are rich enough to slaughter one for their compound, they slaughter it in the compound. But those who can afford only parts of the meat, they go to Tara market to get their pig. See, that is the pig, which is always a protein when there's a death celebration.
I think I missed out one piece. I would like to ask, with the traditional meal, is it used when is it eaten? Is it eaten every day? Is it eaten on a particular day? And what's the significance of the traditional meal when there is an occasion, say a death celebration, a birth, the celebration of the coming of a newborn, of marriage? Is it optional to have achu at a Pinyin wedding, traditional marriage, or is there any significance attached to ensuring that that meal is served?
I would like us to put aside marriage when it comes to the pig and to highlight and reiterate that it is an indispensable protein for a death celebration. And how is it served? When they serve the achu to individuals, it is again the men who will use their knives and slice, because the meat is cooked in chunks, and then they slice it in front of the people. They are seated in the courtyard or in the room or so. Then the meat is placed in the center. Somebody removes his knife. And it starts from the older people. And then at the end, he does the work in such a way that he gives the impression he has nothing left for him. Then the wise ones who have been watching carefully will say, hey, come and take this, come and take this. I saw you dividing it so transparently and so openly and doing so well without pulling the blanket to your side. And some people use this as a ploy, as a strategy to push a lot more meat into the hands of some of their friends so that in the return they can give them something. Again, this is human nature to pull the blanket to yourself indirectly. That is a true for death celebrations. Then, as for succession stories, for the succession ceremony, family members will best know how they do it because it varies from family to family. But for death celebration, the standard is there.
And okay, so you're saying that for weddings, is there any say you have just a feast at home, you're celebrating the birth of a child or something, is there any significant, in essence, I'm trying to ask, achu being the traditional meal, how did it even come about that achu became the traditional meal? But how is it held in reverence to show that it is the traditional meal? So if there were an occasion and someone came in from the neighboring Bawaju or Awing or Balinyonga, should they expect Achu to be present? Or is it optional that a Pinyin family would have Achu served or not served at that ceremony?
Let me start by saying that even though I said that achu is very, very available in every meal, they usually make sure that there are other dishes. They like to have cassava steamed and then they eat it without soup. They like it that way and then drink their member. They may also have a pan, this corn fufu. And of course, we acquired this from our neighbors, the Balenyongas. Concerning birth ceremonies, when a child is born, the ceremony takes quite some time. It starts in a little manner, based known only to the family members. And what happens is that the palm oil that the man of the compound used to offer according to his means, he may go a little bit further to produce, to buy more, with understanding that the jama and then the corn chaff will be more elaborate. And during a birth ceremony, you provide more oil. In fact, some people do it to show that they are capable, but actually providing more oil than necessary. And then some women wisely drain some of the oil into a small container and take away, as should in case, let me use that word. And when they get home, they say that I went to a birth celebration, my in-laws did this. I made sure that I strained this more oil than I'm taking away with me. Concerning marriage, let me just say something about marriage. A marriage starts in such a way, and talk about the celebration, because wooing and intending is another matter. It takes a long time too. But when the woman finally comes to the compound, what is very common, of course, is the achu that they will eat in the evenings. But to go a little bit further, they always eat something different, like corn fufu, or what you call kati kati, because many fowls are coming in to celebrate the arrival of a woman. So they roast the chicken, put some oil in, spice it a little, and then people actually open their hand, they put their own piece inside, they eat. You see, they can just eat it with no soup as a meal to celebrate a marriage. Then when a woman, the young woman has lived in the compound for, say, 1 month, it used to even be 2 months, and people are coming and celebrating in a small way every day, every weekend. Then the day she's ready to be called a woman, the age mates of the husband will say that today is your day. So a young girl can enter the husband's compound or house and will only be receiving visitors with the husband sitting there and honored, and they don't know themselves until a particular day when a particular cock is slaughtered by the age mates of the woman. They eat it, they keep a vigil till about midnight. Then they tell the woman that you shall know your room today. And 1 or 2 age mates will tell their friend who is married to the young lady, come. Then they will send a young girl who is called Ndingan. That's a bridesmaid, sort of. say, go and call Ngan. She will hesitate a little. It's always a tradition. A woman does not just offer her gold like that. She will try to hesitate. And finally, they'll put her in the room with the husband, and then they tell the husband, do your work, so that in the next 6 months we can see something happening on this woman. So the cock is killed on that day. Then after that, when the man has started doing his work, she's now free. To say free is not the word. She's now taken to the market, properly dressed, clad in a wando, and beat, and her chest properly
adorned with.
You used the word, thank you for that, adorned with some beads, and they used to also use a particular hand-woven bead they call mishi around her waist. Wood. She goes to the market accompanied by some girls of the compound. Like they now see her in the company of some children of the compound. Say, okay, that's the woman of that compound. When she goes to the market.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, Daddy. I get you. So my last question will be going back to Country Sunday, just because of how it's being used now. It's there's a lot of talk about Country Sunday. So I'm just trying to go back to the roots and what Country Sunday really means to the people and how it's being used in each of the countries in Southern Cameroon, especially, just to help us understand. Amongst the people of Pinyin, is Country Sunday significant? Why would it be? I don't want it to get lost in the current use of Country Sunday. If I were to go to Pinyin today, what would I need to know about Country Sunday and the way the people live? When are they in the farmlands, or do they farm? When are they, if I wanted to say schedule a traditional marriage, what are the things, the considerations I should have in regards to how the people live and how to schedule those appointments with them?
Let me go to the point and thank a group in Pinyin and Nkang group. They call it Nkang Chumo. Nkang Chumo, their president is Martin G. Tangu, a group of men and women who have sustainably made sure that they document the whole concept of the days in the Pinyin language and matching these days, even though it varies with the calendar days that you and I know. And so there's a small diary every year they come up with it, which means that if somebody's leaving Bamenda or Yaoundé for the village, and you have that small booklet, you already know that in Cap this day will correspond to, say, Monday. That is that, in practical terms. Another point I need to highlight, even though you have not asked it, but again, it can help you drive your point across, is that when the Christians' Sunday day falls on Cap, it means that the people are lucky to be resting on one day. Even though for the Christian, that Cap which falls on Sunday is a day to go to church. Also, when the when the Christian Sunday day, excuse me for the use of that, for lack of the appropriate word, falls when in Dapang market day, that's Ngayua, falls on Sunday, the church is fairly scanty. And for me, as a Presbyterian Christian, and there are many Presbyterians in Pinyin, in my personal communication with some of the pastors, I tell them, don't condemn it blatantly, don't make a judgment. Just help them adjust. If it is possible, that you hold your church service a little bit earlier as a coping strategy to handle the situation, it will be helpful. So this is a difficulty. When an administrator plans a tour to Pinyin and is careful enough to select Nkap, he's likely going to meet people. If the Pinyin Development Organization or the Minkai Welfare Organization or the Bushi Development, Culture and Development Association, and to name the rest, were to plan big events in the land and then they select and cap, chances are that they will meet many people. That is it. I say this because I am happy to note that in the Presbyterian Church in Pinyin, most of the groups who normally meet within the week, CMF, CWF, CYF, have arranged it in such a way that in order to maximize time, they should be meeting on cap. In the city, for me as a Presbyterian, we meet on Thursday. But in the village, in Pinyin in particular, they meet on cap, which means that they are maximizing the use of their time to go to the farm. When we say that Pinyin people are farmers, or when people are farmers, let's also highlight the fact that this from the beginning has been subsistence farming from hand to mouth. Then you serve a bit to share to people. You preserve a bit to wait for a rainy day. But today, other demands and other wants have come in. It's important to highlight the difference between a want and a demand. It is a want to pay school fees, to buy clothes, to take the child to the hospital, to build a good house, to have a car. But there is a need, and we need to identify our needs, to be peaceful, not to be judgmental, not to condemn the Christian who, for coping strategies, rushes to the market to buy the week's provisions. Guide that villager to know that to satisfy your body needs is part of worship for God, because if you are hungry, you may soil your hands. Is it not said in Proverbs 39:7-9, that God help me not to be too poor, because I can soil your name. And by the same token, Lord, help me not to be too rich, because if I'm too rich, I may say I don't need you. Which is to say that Pinyin man, Awing man, whoever, we should always in our daily practices strike a balance between what the body needs as a serious need and what we need as a want.
Daddy, thank you so much for making time out to share with us about Pinyin history, Pinyin life in Pinyin, Country Sunday, the traditional meal, and just enriching us in helping us situate Pinyin geographically in relation to all its neighbors. I think that the people of Pinyin in particular would be so indebted to you for putting this together so we could learn, and all our neighbors in it being able to understand where we're coming from and where we are going to and how we fit into this cultural into this cultural beauty, to this cultural richness. And so thank you very much, Daddy. Do you have any last words for our audience?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Pinyin Nijita. Pinyin Nizu. Pinyin Nenanglia. What I'm saying is that Pinyin people should listen, they should watch, they should see. We are now in a situation of cultural mix, cross-cultural difficulties. I'm talking to Pinyin people in English. There are some who may not understand me. All this you and I are developing, some young Pinyin children born in America and Great Britain, in South Africa, they may see this as a waste of time. I've traveled a bit, and when I see an Indian, and I see a Jew, I see a Chinese, from my perception, I am strongly convinced that they stick to their culture, to their identity, So let us use this opportunity for Pinyin people to know that if I highlight 721 square kilometers of land that they occupy, land that their forefathers peacefully explored and settled there, and later on, Pinyin children of yore, men and women alike, defended in wars and skirmishes to preserve. They should, from wherever they are, pray for this land. I say this because we live in a world where some people make things happen. Some always see them happen. Some don't even want to see them happen. Those of you who are in the diaspora, someday, somehow, you want to come back home. Let us do something for that home. Because 721 square kilometers of land mass with a lot of potential will make no sense if there are no human beings to transform it into something useful. Also for our friends, Balinyonga people who are our brothers and sisters, Bamumbu people, Ashong people, Bafochu people, Bawak people, Mbe people, Babaju people, and beyond to Iwing. Mankon, take note that Pinyin people fall within the white man's category of Ngembas. And the Ngembas include Mankon, Awing, Akum, Alatin is another subset of Pinyin. It's a different matter. Then the Ngembas also include our brothers from Balegam. The Mbuk groups, Bafocho, Mbe, and Baba too. Let us belong together. Let us live together and be useful to each other. Let us put our candles together and light the world. This is the message I have for my listeners. And to thank you for reaching out to others. Because some people, somewhere, it's difficult to measure, will be using the Pinyin example to consolidate their own example. Because Pinyin is a candle lit for others to see. Thank you.
You've heard it from the father of the land. You've heard it from the people of Pinyin. I hope you enjoyed this message. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share. Until next time, I'm Manondo Akono saying thank you for responding to this summer. Thank you, Papa.